Casey, Singh, to you first. What's your sense? Is this a storm in a teacup? Have we got egg on our face by immediately reacting to what Donald Trump said and now finding there may be no evidence, at least hard documented evidence, to back the claim that United States was funding Indian elections on voter turnout?
Look, Rajiv, we've dealt with Trump for 4 years, the last time he was president, and we know that he indulges in fact-free politics, he splashes facts around, and the Indian thing is only one part of it. Look at his exchanges with Ukraine. He says he's given $500 billion, and I want that many minerals back from Ukraine. The facts are that he's given only about 120 billion, and the EU have given more than that. So, he just distorts figures. Therefore, it's always dangerous to immediately react when you hear something coming from him. Either like Brzezinski, you contend it. There is a reluctance in New Delhi not to do that because then he gets very upset and you get into an altercation with him. Or you just put up, now you take the so many $1 million for condoms in Gaza because Gaza, it was going into Israel, it's going to West Asia. The confusion is that the Gaza, which is mentioned there, is Gaza in Mozambique. And the condoms were going to fight HIV/AIDS. It had nothing to do with Gaza and West Asia. So what Elon Musk has done, he's unleashed hundreds of these technocratic kids who are working for him. And they're going and pulling figures out, not knowing the context, not knowing the larger reality, that this is a program started by JFK in 1961. And JFK called it the developmental decade. Every country has it. We have a foreign assistance program. And in that, democracy was always a part of it because US wanted to spread the message about free markets and about democracy. It's not a secret.
No, but is it possible that as a result, some of the money that was supposedly meant to promote democratic values could have gone to NGOs, which is then used by in this instance, the BJP to suggest this was being done to benefit the opposition, destabilize them? Or is that simply barking up the wrong tree?
Rajiv, MHA monitors it. You would have seen over the last 2-3 years, they've taken away the permission of a number of NGOs to receive foreign funding. They're very closely monitoring. It's not External Affairs Ministry. MHA is closely monitoring all flow of funds. So if there was nothing on their radar, then certainly I don't see what is the brouhaha at the moment, because it should have come up at that stage. They're like a tooth comb, CPR, this and that. They've stopped the funding of anyone, even seen as marginally critical of the government. But something that was seen as affecting democracy, we've gone after it.
Mr. Srinivasan, what's your view? Has the government of India ended up overreacting and without documented evidence to back these claims that actual money was sent, $21 million was sent to India, which in any case is not a very big amount to influence an Indian election, for God's sake? Do you believe the government of India could have handled this better? Or do you believe there could be something more that could come out in the weeks and months ahead?
I agree with Casey what may have happened. But one thing I can say is that this is against the USAID, not against India. President Trump is wanting to close it down, and he wanted to enumerate lots of faults made by USAID. And in the process, he found this figure somewhere and pushed it out.
No, so we are getting tangled in his domestic politics. That's exactly it. He wants to cut back on USAID, and we are getting the blowback.
Let me also tell you one thing. India is not one of the major aid receivers from the US. I remember when I was there was a Burton Amendment which used to come to the Congress every year. And we used to fight it tooth and nail. There's a resolution would say, cut down 10% of assistance to India for human rights violations in India. And when we found out there was no USAID at all activity in India, we were not an aid receiver at all. But still, we were fighting a shadow, thinking that we are getting it without finding out whether we are actually getting it or not. So finally, we decided not to fight it because we are not receiving any USAID at that time. And there was no point in fighting a huge battle in the Congress. So such things happen. But I think Mr. Jayashankar's point is valid. We have to look at it. And this is deserving a consideration that he has to say for the sake of the president. I don't think
No,
there'll
but
be any
he's
more
saying,
skeletons
I
in the
just want to
cupboard.
understand, surely this documented evidence of money coming from USAID, which is an official government body of the United States, would be available to our ministries? The Home Ministry would monitor it, the Ministry of Finance would monitor it. They've come out with a report. You know, this suggestion that America was in some cloak and dagger manner operating seems a bit strange, doesn't it, to you? This foreign hand
No, all
bringing
these,
in George Soros now?
yes. Yeah, right. No, that's all create headlines in India. That is why it happens. But as I said, the Burton Amendment where we are fighting without even knowing whether we are getting any US aid. So similar thing will appear. This money may have gone to Bangladesh or it may not have gone to anybody else. But this will come out. I don't think we need to worry too much about this allegation. It's
Okay,
a
so
anti-USAID position.
is this though Irfan Nuruddin, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump at play using the Department of Government Expenses because they want to cut down on government expenses? We are told today 1,500 people have been served termination notice in USAID in Washington, and India is getting tangled in the domestic politics unleashed by the Trump-Musk duo. Is that the sense you get in Washington?
100%, Rajdeep, as your esteemed co-panelist said. I mean, this is American domestic politics. It is an attack on USAID, and more generally, it is an attack on America's role in the world. I mean, at the end of the day, the idea that this money spent, as your colleague Geeta Mohan said, was characterized as not being helpful to America is false, right? What Kennedy and every president after that understood is that America's power in the world was because of soft power. This is money that goes to help poor people around the world fight malaria, to fight hunger, starvation, and increasingly in recent years, to build market linkages, build entrepreneurship, etc. So what Trump and Musk are against is all of that. But look, what happened over here is you had Trump essentially talking, as Ambassador Singh said, factory politics. He's shooting from the hip. And what is the real claim over here? There are two claims. One is that money went for voter turnout. That in and of itself, even if it was true, and it's not true, even if it was true, is not inherently controversial. Having more people participate in elections is a good thing. But the second thing he said was, first he said, this is for going to my friend, Mr. Modi. The second thing he said is they wanted someone else elected. It is that second statement that is completely irresponsible on the part of Mr. Trump because there's absolutely no evidence of any of that. And for the Indian government, for the pro-BJP side, from Amit Malviya and the IT cell, to seize on that is actually a second issue that we have to talk about, which is that it taps a deep insecurity within Indian politics right now about the role of civil society, about the role of a free media, and the notion that any funding going to train media journalists, just looking at the information on your screen, on our screens right now, the kind of projects that are funded, or to fund voter turnout is inherently anti-Mr. Modi, inherently anti-government, and therefore inherently anti-India is deeply problematic. At the end of the day, every paisa that enters India from a foreign fund to an NGO is more scrutinized over the last decade than at any previous time. This is incredibly impossible. It's impossible to imagine that money in the amounts of millions was flowing into India to NGOs under the current government's watch, and they have absolutely no clue as to how that money was being spent or what the memoranda of understanding were governing that. If that's true, that's actually an admission on their part of gross negligence, and I don't believe that that's what they're trying to say.
Yeah, but you're saying that the whole notion of America getting deeply involved in enhancing voter turnout seems, prima facie to be a bit strange in the context of India.